Welcome back. It's the Will and Jack Show. I'd like to start by first thanking again our volunteer crew and the Shaw staff. So I'll just start off. Today is September the 11th. I saw a small story maybe yesterday or today. I meant to copy it, but I didn't. There's a fire commission in New York. In New York City, there are many different fire commissions, just like we have many different municipalities here. This is a small one. I'm not sure if one of their members may have been killed on 9/11, but they were involved in the cleanup, and a lot of their people, or some of their people, died from that. So this fire commission, which is a small one near Queens, is asking that they're asking for a new investigation into what happened on 9/11. So imagine that a fire commission in New York City is asking that an honest investigation take place. They're working together with a group of about 3,000 architects and engineers who say that it is impossible for the buildings to have collapsed from the airplanes and the hits. So that's a bit of news, and you're hearing it here first, probably, because you're not hearing it anywhere else.
I did hear that. One of the things, the person who was questioned, who was speaking for the fire department or the union or whatever it was, I'm not sure what it was. He said, "We are going to get to the bottom of this. We're not going to let it go." And so I thought that was pretty good, because they're going to get to the bottom of it, and I think that's a good thing, because there are a lot of people who still believe that everything, the official report, is true.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that personally, but I mean, I know that there are a lot of people that believe it still. So.
And so much has come from that. I mean, it was discussed prior to it happening, the deep state, I guess, was talking about the need for, because there was getting to be too much democracy. It was the day of the Battle of Seattle and all of that. There was a huge focus on the real enemy, which is the corporation. And people around the world were saying, we know what the problem is. It's you, the corporation. And so the deep state was saying, we need to get rid of this idea, right? And so what they need is a new Pearl Harbor. Right, to start a new war. And a few years later, a very few years later, that's exactly what they got, and they started a new war. So the question is, what really happened?
Right, if you read Zbigniew Brzezinski's book, The Grand Chessboard, pretty much lays out the scenario for taking over the oil fields and the...
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't, I don't even talk to people about 9/11 anymore, because it's just either they get it or they don't.
Yeah.
What can you say? Either you understand that the world around us is changing dramatically during our lifetimes and we're going through a phase change, or you think that everything is hunky-dunky and we just need to put on the brakes and sort of get through this. Yeah.
But people definitely move along that spectrum one way and the other.
Well, that's true. It does tend to polarize. It has polarized people.
It polarized, but people change their minds. I certainly have changed my mind over the years.
Sure.
I grew up believing everything, and so did you.
I've changed my mind. You've seen me change over the 7 years I've worked on the show. It's really, I don't believe the stories that I was raised with. They don't make sense to me anymore, and the world does have to make sense. I need I was talking to Bruce Hauser before the show, and he was saying, he believes in competition, and that's what our society is based on. And the only, I believed in that too. That was what I was taught. I was raised on that economic theory and the Darwinian theory and everything else, survival of the fittest. But now we're seeing that mathematically that doesn't work with limited resources. You can't just grab it all, because it leaves nothing. It's a losing. The strategy of everybody for themselves and take what you can and don't worry about what anybody else, no worry about the commons or anything like that. That's a losing strategy in the long run, and we're finally able to see that scientifically. And
Now you're making the argument, and Bruce isn't here to defend it, but I mean,
well, no, I know,
a
but I
lot
mean,
of people really
but I'm just
do
saying,
believe
I'm not trying to fight with Bruce per se. I'm not fighting with anybody. I'm just saying that's what our society is based on.
Yeah.
Our society is based on that idea that competition is the best thing and that everybody has more if we compete.
Yeah.
And then it's also based on the idea that Darwin was saying that nature is brutal, and the ones who are the fit for survival they're the ones who should be allowed to live.
Yeah.
And we've based our culture on that, and now we're finding out that really, if we look at nature scientifically, it's a very cooperative venture. And yes, lions do eat gazelles, yes, but in the broad spectrum of all of nature, there's much more cooperation
Yes.
than.
Yes.
I mean, there are some cases, for example, where there are 3 different life forms, say a plant and an insect and a nematode for some pine trees, and all 3 of those life forms have to be in good shape for all 3 of them to continue to exist.
And look at our own body. I mean,
Yeah.
trillions of cells
Right.
working together somehow to make this thing that is so, I mean, I'll speak for any animal or any insect or any plant, just a brilliant creation that can, I mean, sight, the ability to walk, to write, to do anything, it's amazing.
Yes.
I mean, so whoever put this thing together knew what they were doing until they came to us. But maybe this is our job. Maybe what we're doing is our job.
Yeah, I think
Who
I think
knows?
we're in an evolutionary stage here. We've got to take the blinders off and look and see what's going on.
Yeah.
If we don't, we're kind of hooped.
Yeah. Which brings us to our own election, which is coming up on October 21st. My problem with the election is that I don't really think we have a democracy. And I've sort of stopped voting for the most part because I don't want to partake in the farce anymore, because that's how I see it. A lot of people don't, and I won't even say that I'm right, but that's how I now see it.
Well, you have to protect your own mental health, and it's if somebody makes you dig a hole and fill it up again, dig a hole, fill it up again, dig a hole, fill it up again, you're going to go crazy. It's certified. So that's essentially what we're doing with
Yeah,
voting.
that's actually a good analysis of all our elections.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you work really hard,
Yeah.
and then they come back and tell you what's going to happen, and
Yeah.
it isn't what you wanted.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it really is obvious that this is a corporate-run society. I have no problem with that. That's what I was raised with, and that's what my whole work life. We came up with ideas in the boardroom and in the engineering brainstorming, and we brought them out. And in a small company, if it's a smaller company, then there is that competition. People choose what they want. But once it gets to a huge multinational type corporation like smart meters, for example, the companies that are making these smart meters, realistically, we have no control over that. That's a decision that's been made. This is what you're going to have, and that's what gets rolled out. So yeah, I mean, why should we vote? The people who make the decisions that affect our lives really are not elected.
That's right. The people who make those decisions are at a level above our government.
Right.
So how do we fix that up? Because government has tremendous power. The problem is that we, the people of Canada, have lost control of our government. They don't, I mean, I live in the riding of Victoria Beacon Hill, provincially. My MLA is Carol James, and she's the same as all the other MLAs. The people of Victoria Beacon Hill, I don't think, support fracking, right? But our MLAs do. All of our MLAs here in the city do, because they're all, except for the Greens, but all the NDPers do. And are they representing the wishes of the people who live here? I don't know. I don't think people in Victoria Beacon Hill support fracking, but shouldn't we know? Shouldn't we know if our MLA is representing us or doing something totally different? So, I mean, that's the state our democracy is in. We are irrelevant.
Yeah, I frankly just think that we have to wait for our civilization to fail more. I mean, it's unsustainable. The way we are living is unsustainable, and until individuals take the initiative and say, I'm not going to live like this anymore. I refuse to do all these things that are non-sustainable. Until individuals start doing that, we're not going to have a real change.
But it would be nice if individually, collectively, we had governments that were, for example, here in Victoria, why don't we have an excellent tram and light rail system? You know, I mean, that would solve a lot of the problem, because the problem is cars, right? And if that was done right across Canada and had been done over the last 50 years, we would not be in the mess we're in. And I think people want that. So yes, individually we can do a lot, but it would be nice if our governments represented those things, if that's really what we want. Maybe we want to destroy the future, I don't know.
At some point, I mean, right now the petroleum companies still rule, but people are buying electric cars. I mean, if you look around the city, how many electric cars there are since a year ago, it's astonishing. So people are moving in that way, and then that's when the companies move in and say, well, we're going to provide electric cars, or we're going to provide. But the thing is, you have to vote with your dollars. That's how we talk in our society. We have dollars and we vote.
So what I'd like to see actually is a citizens' assembly. Like you're into food production, right? Localized food production is one thing. Yeah.
I think we need to eat.
Yeah, why not a citizens' assembly on that issue, which interests a lot of people, to see how our local, provincial, and federal governments could begin to help make it happen, because it is definitely the way of the future. So citizens' assemblies, I think, would be wonderful things for us to do.
I think you're right. I think that the point that Hendrik brought up, though, is that we're sort of afraid to talk about this, and we push it. I mean, denial is a huge characteristic of the human race, and it's a survival mechanism. And right now, we are denying the future. We're denying what we're going to see, and it's hard for people to talk about it. So I agree that it would be nice if people, if we could do these citizens' assemblies, but in reality, I think it's going to have to come at an individual level, because it's unpopular to say these things.
Except on this show.
Except on this show, where we relish talking about taboo subjects.
Yeah. Will, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack. Always a pleasure.
And thank you for watching this segment of Citizens Forum.